You are standing in a side room, 20 minutes before the ceremony. Someone is fixing the back of your collar. Outside, chairs scrape across a wooden floor, and somebody laughs too loudly. And you are waiting for a feeling to arrive. The big one. The one films promised you. The one that makes your throat tighten and your hands shake. It does not come. What comes instead is quieter, steady, almost like relief, and underneath it, a question you will never say out loud. Does this mean I do not love them? Stay with me, because that quiet is not what you were taught it is. Most people think there are only two kinds of marriage, the ones built on love, and the ones built on something colder. Convenience, fear, running out of time. But that split leaves out a whole group of people. People who chose safety on purpose, and then spent years quietly wondering if choosing safety made them a fraud. Today we are looking at the psychology of people who marry someone they do not love. And by the end, that word might not mean what you think it means. It is a Sunday morning, and they are making coffee. You are watching them from the doorway. They do the same three movements they have done for years. Cupboard, spoon, the little tap of the spoon on the rim, and you feel something. It is warm, it is real. It is not fireworks. When people ask about your marriage, you say it is good. And you are not lying. That is the strange part. You are not sitting on some secret misery. You are sitting on a gap between what you have and what you were told love is supposed to feel like. The psychologist Robert Sternberg spent years arguing that love is not one thing at all. In his triangular theory, love is made of three separate pieces: intimacy, which is closeness and trust; passion, which is the heat and the wanting; and commitment, which is the decision to stay. Different combinations make different kinds of love. When you have intimacy and commitment without much passion, that is not a broken marriage. Researchers have a name for it: companionate love. It is the love people describe between old friends who never leave. And it happens to be the shape most long marriages settle into anyway, 10 or 15 years in. So here is a question worth sitting with. When you say you do not love your partner, which of the three are you actually missing? Because most people who say that sentence still have 2 out of 3. They just cannot feel the one that was advertised. And notice the word you use in your own head. Settled. You settled. It is a strange word if you look at it. It means to lower yourself onto something lesser, but it also means what water does when it stops being churned. Dust settles. A house settles onto its foundation. Which of those two things has actually been happening to you? But here is where it gets complicated. Think about the last person who made your hands shake. Really think. The one you checked your phone for at 2 in the morning. The one whose mood decided what kind of week you were going to have. You called that love. Everyone around you called it love. Your body was doing something enormous, and you read it as certainty. There is a famous study from the 1970s by the psychologists Donald Dutton and Arthur Aaron. They had men cross 2 bridges in Canada. One was low and solid. The other was a narrow suspension bridge swaying high above a canyon. A woman met each man at the end and gave him her number. The men who had just crossed the terrifying bridge were far more likely to call her. Their hearts were pounding because of the drop. Their brains filed it under attraction. Read that again, because it explains something about your whole romantic history. The body produces a signal. The mind decides what the signal means. And if you grew up around love that was unpredictable, your nervous system learned to file danger under desire. Uncertainty felt like chemistry. Being anxious about someone felt like wanting them, which means calm is going to feel like nothing. Not because nothing is there, because you were trained to identify love by heat, and what you have now is not a bonfire. It is a pilot light, that small blue flame at the back of the boiler that you never look at, that makes almost no heat on its own, and that never goes out. You have been standing in front of a pilot light your whole marriage, waiting to feel warm the way you did when the whole house was on fire. And this is where it gets uncomfortable. Somewhere in your childhood, you did the math. Maybe you watched love that arrived with weather. Someone who was tender on good days and gone on bad ones. Doors closing. A tone of voice that told you which parent you were getting tonight. Maybe you loved someone who was very good at leaving. Children in unstable homes do not just absorb pain, they build policy. And the policy a lot of people build sounds something like this. Never construct a life on top of a feeling that can change without warning. So years later, you meet two people. One of them lights you up and cannot be relied on to answer a message. The other one is steady, kind, a little unexciting, and has never once made you afraid. And you choose the second one, and you feel oddly guilty about it, as though you took the easy exam. You did not take the easy exam. You were the only person in the room who had already seen what the hard one costs. And your body knew before you did. You can usually find the moment if you look for it. Some ordinary evening early on, when they said they would call at 9, and the phone rang at 9, and something in your chest unclenched in a way it never had before. You did not think, this is love. You thought, oh, this is what not bracing feels like. How much of your life had you spent bracing before that? And this is worth saying plainly, because it is true for a lot of people watching. Sometimes the reason is not psychological at all. Sometimes there was a pregnancy, or a family that would not have survived the shame, or a country you needed to stay in, or a parent who was dying and wanted to see it happen. Sometimes you were 38 and tired, and the arithmetic of being alone forever was heavier than the arithmetic of being with someone good enough. Those are not shameful reasons. They are the reasons humans have married for most of recorded history. The idea that love should be the only foundation of marriage is barely 2 centuries old, and it is not obviously winning. But here is the part that changes the whole picture. For a long time, researchers assumed that marriages built on passion would be the happiest ones. Then people started following couples over time. What they kept finding is that passion is not stable. In marriages that begin at maximum heat, the heat tends to fall. That is not cynicism, it is just how novelty works in the brain. Meanwhile, studies comparing arranged marriages with love-based ones, particularly the longitudinal work done in India, kept finding something the researchers did not expect. In many arranged marriages, reported love was low at the start and climbed over the years. Some of them ended up reporting more love than the couples who married for it. Sit with what that implies. Love, in the long form, behaves less like a feeling you arrive with and more like something that accumulates, which reframes the question you have been asking yourself at 3 in the morning. You keep asking whether you loved them enough on the day you married them. That may be the wrong day to examine. The love in a long marriage is not a deposit you make once at the start and then slowly spend. It is built afterwards, on ordinary Tuesdays, by 2 people who kept showing up. It accumulates in small, unglamorous deposits. They know how you take your coffee. They noticed you went quiet on the drive home and did not make you explain it. They sat in a hospital corridor for 6 hours holding your bag. None of that feels like a bonfire. All of it is love doing its actual job. And I want to be careful here, because this is somebody's real life. There is a difference between a marriage that is quiet and a marriage that is empty. If what is in your house is contempt, or fear, or a silence you are shrinking inside, no reframe fixes that, and a video is not the place to sort it out. Safety chosen with your eyes open is one thing. Safety that has become a cage is another. Only you know which room you are standing in. But if what you have is warmth without fireworks, and you have been calling that a failure for years, then you have been judging your marriage against a standard almost nobody actually lives inside. So let me say the thing you have been waiting to hear someone say. There is nothing wrong with you. You are not cold. You are not a liar in a good suit. You did not fail at love and settle for a substitute. You married someone you do not feel intoxicated. That is not the same as marrying someone you do not love. What you were missing was never love. It was adrenaline, and you had already learned what adrenaline costs. You chose a person who would still be there in February, who would not make you audition for affection, who would let your nervous system finally put its shoulders down after 20 years of scanning the horizon. That was not emptiness. That was the most expensive lesson of your childhood being spent wisely. The bonfire is a spectacular thing to stand next to. It is also the thing that goes out overnight and leaves you cold at 4 in the morning with nothing but ash. The pilot light makes no show at all. It just refuses to go out. And when the real cold comes, and it always comes, it is the only flame in the house that can start the whole system again. You did not marry without love. You married without the version of love you were sold. There is a difference, and you have been paying for that difference for years. So tell me, which part of this felt like it was written about your kitchen on a Sunday morning? Leave it in the comments. I read them, and there are more of you in there than you would ever guess. And the next time you catch yourself watching them, do the same 3 movements with the coffee spoon. Look again. That small, steady flame you keep dismissing because it does not roar. It has been burning this entire time. Subscribe to keep decoding yourself, and I'll see you in the next